Arsenal, I beg you, please, I want a European away win. 10-0. Oh, I'm joking. I think we're higher than Stamgast though.
Yeah, but that's not hard.
Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Squawka Predictor podcast with myself, James Lorenzo, alongside Squawka's resident football expert, Dean Smith. And the Oracle, we'll continue calling him that, for the time being at least, Rimedi. Gents, thanks very much for joining us to preview match day 5 of the Champions League phase. And we're going to get straight into it with Manchester City versus Feyenoord. Rimedi, you have your 60 seconds to preview this one starting now.
Man City have a strong injury crisis, right? It's kind of bad. Rodri's out. Jack Grealish is in and out of the team. Ruben Dias is in and out of the team. And City, at the time of recording, have lost 4 games on the bounce. But I think this is the game it turns around. But let's not sleep on Feyenoord because they are a tricky team. So since Arne Slot has left, the coach Brian Friska has come in from the Czech Republic and he's implemented a pressing style of system, kind of similar to what Arne Slot is doing now at Liverpool. So from that perspective, Feyenoord have the likes of Quentin Timber, who is the twin brother of Jurrien Timber. They have Ramiz Rouhi, who from Algeria, and they are players with high energy that can carry the ball and that can really get about the Manchester City midfield. Now, one of the issues with City's midfield so far is that we've seen kind of a loss of form or a loss of transition. So Feyenoord can get them from that point of view. But I think City come out winners 2-1 from this game.
Bang, on the money. So you think, at the time of recording, they have suffered an historic 4 losses on the bounce. You think they recover from that by the time the Champions League rolls around?
Yeah, I think so. I feel like maybe Pep coached some losses so that he can get the City boys finally woken up saying, okay, cool, you've lost 4 games. Where's the passion? Where's the fire in your belly to wake yourselves up? And I think Feyenoord will be probably one of the first games they can really just get back into the rhythm.
But still only by a 1-goal margin, you reckon?
Yeah, I think they're going to concede. I feel that their defense is really weak right now in terms of the amount of transitions they concede. So, yeah, I'm going to go for 2-1.
Okay. Now, crises are relative, right? City are in what for them is quite a bad spell. But if we turn our attention to Bayern versus PSG, there is a visiting side there that is in a whole different level, whole different class of crisis. Dean, you have 60 seconds to preview this one. Bayern versus PSG starting now.
Look, I may have been wrong about Sturm Graz and I may have been wrong about Manchester City, but PSG is one thing that I've got right in the Champions League and they continue to struggle in front of goal against Atletico Madrid. They racked up 22 shots and were absolutely football managered by Atletico, who won 2-1 with 4 shots. This season in the Champions League, only Man City have taken more shots than PSG and they're underperforming their XG by 1.34 goals per game in the Champions League. However, in Ligue 1, they're actually overachieving by 0.82 goals per game. So perhaps that pressure of delivering a first Champions League for the club is playing on the minds of some of the young stars in that PSG team. It's a trip to Bayern next for the Parisians. At the time of recording, Bayern have been fantastic defensively. They've kept 5 consecutive clean sheets. They limited Benfica to just 1 shot last time out. Kim Min-jae with an excellent performance in that game, picking up 7 tackles. And I think they'll do a number on PSG here. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Bayern home win.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, we can go back to episode 1. I'm more than keen to go back to episode 1 and review our predictions then. But PSG flopping this season was a pretty, shared assumption between the three of us. And they're really not doing much to disabuse us of that notion at the moment.
Yeah, and like I say, it's strange because in the domestic competitions, they actually look pretty strong at the minute. Barkel has been fantastic in Ligue 1. He's got 10 goals in 11 games and they're just sort of swatting these teams aside, and even though they look better than the teams they're playing, it's just like, I don't know if it's a mental block or I said at the start of the season that I think they're probably going to lack that superstar, and Barcola, as talented as he is, he's probably not quite at that level yet to drag them through games where Mbappe used to last year.
Absolutely. Okay, moving swiftly on to Inter versus Leipzig. Inter with a win over your team, Rimedi, last time out, and Leipzig with a defeat to my underdog pick. I'm just going to get that in there one more time. Celtic going good at the moment at the halfway stage. Anyway, how do you see this game going at the San Siro? Inter versus Leipzig, your 60 seconds start now.
Inter nullified Arsenal quite well. I say quite because towards the end of the game, Arsenal found some success through the middle of the pitch. And if a team were to get at Inter, they would have to find those combinations in the right and left half spaces. In Simone Inzaghi's 3 at the back or 5 at the back system, the way to attack them is through the half spaces. And when you have someone in the quality of Xavi Simons who can find himself in those spaces, he can cause Inter some problems. Now, Inter sit pretty in the Champions League so far. They've won 3 games, they've drawn 1, and on the other hand, Leipzig, they've not won a game so far, and it's not really looking good for them at all in the Champions League, because I think they won't be getting the win in this game either. I think Inter come out of this game 1-0 winners, but I do feel Xavi Simons has a big part to play in it. He's already picked up 4 goal contributions in the Bundesliga so far, but it's going to be Inter's game, and I think they are going to win, as I mentioned, 1-0.
They are sitting pretty, and as you say, another defeat for Leipzig, 5 defeats from 5, leaves them really floundering, which they'll be very disappointed with, won't they?
Absolutely, and I also feel that Leipzig so far, of course they've had tough games in the likes of Liverpool, but they've also had games where they could have easily won or picked up some points. So if Leipzig are to potentially qualify for the next round of the Champions League, they need to start picking up some points ASAP.
But you don't see it happening this time round.
Not in this game.
Okay, on to Aston Villa versus Juventus. This would have been a European Cup classic back in the day, wouldn't it? Villa were going strong, and then obviously the Emi Martinez ex-Tyrone Mings debacle in the last round against the Juventus side that probably still have a bit to prove. Dean, what do you reckon for this when your 60 seconds start now?
Yeah, it was back down to earth with a bump for Aston Villa against Club Brugge. They lost 1-0 thanks to a controversial second half penalty, but in reality they didn't deserve anything from that performance. And we're recording prior to their Premier League match against Crystal Palace, but prior to that they've really struggled for form, and a big part of that is the front three. Morgan Rogers, Ollie Watkins and Leon Bailey are really struggling to perform at the minute against Bruges. Between the 3 of them, they managed just 3 shots, 2 take-ons and no big chances created. I think Villa Park will be rocking again like it was against Bayern Munich, but tactically Juventus are much more cautious than Bayern. They didn't win the ball in the attacking third at any point in their recent defeat to Stuttgart, and they actually rank in the bottom half in Serie A for possessions won in the attacking third as well. So they're less likely to press high. That will give Villa less room to play in behind. And to be honest, with both teams having picked up a few points so far in this Champions League phase, I think they'll both be happy with a draw. That's why I'm going to go for 1-1.
Yeah, do you see them both progressing from this point? We're obviously at the halfway point, and I think if you'd asked certainly Villa fans before the start of the season if they'd take this position after 4 match days, they'd bite your hand off, wouldn't they? Yeah,
definitely. I think the only issue is looking at both of the fixtures. They've both got some tough games left, so I think a point in this one is like, yeah, we'll take that and we'll target the 2 or 3 weaker teams that we've still got to play. Villa, I think, at 8th at the minute after that defeat. So for them, it's probably a case of we'll love to get in the top 8, but we'll take the top 24 and an extra playoff game, even that if that means an extra few games. But for them to progress, I think is definitely progress. It's just sort of that form in the Premier League and whether they can arrest that slide at the moment. I'm not sure how easily that's going to be, for them, because they've got some tough games, like I said.
Okay, all eyes on that one then. All eyes too on Liverpool versus Real Madrid. Liverpool going strong, the only team with a 100% record against a Real Madrid team that we laughed at for how good it was, how good it is on paper, the quality they have there, and yet they came unstuck last time out. Rimedi, your 60 seconds on this one start now.
Time after time, Real Madrid seemed to get the number on Liverpool. It was 2018, it was 2022, it was 2023, it was also 2021 as well. But I feel that this time around, tables turn. Liverpool coming into this game have been unbelievable so far in the Premier League, scoring goals, not really conceding goals. And on the other hand, when you have Real Madrid right now, it's not really looking good for them. Unfortunately, when you have the likes of Kylian Mbappe still trying to find his way into the team, Militao has got an ACL injury, Alaba's out, Rudiger has an injury about him too, Vasquez is out for 3 weeks. Real Madrid have a ton of injuries right now, and it means they can't sustain performances. So what can Real Madrid do to get something out of this game? They need to attack Liverpool where it hurts, and it's on the transition. When you still have the likes of Valverde, Mbappe, Vinicius Jr., these players are one of the best players to have in your team when you're attacking on the transition. But I think Liverpool come out of this game 3-1, and I think Real Madrid, it's not really looking good for them so far in the Champions League, and they need to come out of it stronger.
Where do you see it going wrong then at Real Madrid? As you say, they've had this trouble, but that squad is so good. What's the problem?
We think it's so good, but you'd rather have 11 really good players that fit together than 5 or 6 amazing star world-class players. And unfortunately right now, they're still trying to find the balance. And I feel that with Ancelotti right now, a lot of Real Madrid fans are losing patience with him. He's doing what he can. The team composition isn't really good enough for this season. But I think this season, I've heard a lot of fans, they want to write off this season. They want to say that, okay, we'll just get Xabi Alonso for next season and just prepare for the next one. But yeah, right now Real Madrid is looking quite tough for them.
It's always a problem as well, isn't it, Real Madrid? Like, going back over the years, they always seem to sign the player in the wrong position. Like, go back to the Galacticos and signing David Beckham to play on the right wing when Luis Figo was probably the best player in the world in that position. And then later on, when they signed players like Ronaldo, like obviously Ronaldo was on a separate level, but at that point, when it was like the second Galacticos, it was the same thing, and they didn't quite have that balance and only won one of 4 or 5 league titles after that. So yeah, Real Madrid don't ever seem to learn from that.
I think what's going to be interesting, particularly in this new format of the Champions League as well, is when these big kind of headline-grabbing games fall for teams in positions like Real Madrid's, who obviously they need to find some points, versus Liverpool, who say they win the next 3, they go into match day 8 comfortably within the top 8. Does that become a far easier prospect for whoever they've got then than on match day 5?
Yeah, that's kind of the beauty and the disgrace really of this kind of league phase. I love it personally. I think it gives those teams a chance to then beat Liverpool and get through when they probably wouldn't have otherwise. And it's only the same as kind of what happens towards the end of Premier League seasons and stuff like that. But yeah, I've got to say I love the format. I think it's just opened itself up to so many more like unexpected results, and every result seems to count. Maybe not for those top teams that are going to get through anyway, but certainly like you saw the celebrations when Bruges beat Aston Villa, for example, and Celtic beating Leipzig and stuff like that. I think it adds an extra element to the competition.
Absolutely. Well, Dean, might Sparta Prague provide such a moment against Atletico? Your 60 seconds on this one start now.
It can be difficult to choose which game to watch in the Champions League this season with so many games occurring at the same time, but I'm going to tell you now, probably don't bother watching Sparta Prague versus Atletico Madrid. Sparta Prague have had the least amount of possession of any team in the Champions League this season. They've completed fewer passes than any team, and they also rank in the bottom 5 for chances created, take-ons completed and crosses attempted. Their early season momentum has completely deserted them, and they've won just 1 of their last 9 Czech Liga and Champions League games, and that's why I can see Atletico Madrid taking 3 points from this game. And they've been much better since Diego Simeone adopted a 4-4-2 formation, and I just wanted to point out Conor Gallagher's performance against PSG last time out. He was excellent, won 6 tackles, made 2 interceptions and 2 clearances on the left side of that midfield. Obviously, he won't matter too much against Sparta Prague defensively. Atletico should do enough here. They've tightened up at the back. They're going to win this one 1-0.
I think I'd agree with that one. Sparta Prague, though, to be in a position where they're still in the mix at the halfway stage, 4 points from their opening 4 games, I think they'd be pretty pleased with that. Right, moving swiftly on to Sporting against Arsenal. Sporting are flying. They're second going into this match day. Obviously, Amorim is on his way out, but they show no signs of slowing, both domestically or in Europe. How are they going to fare against a team that you have rather a lot of affection for, Rimedi? Let's not forget. Your 60 seconds on this one start now.
Arsenal, I beg you, please, I want a European away win. Unfortunately, we face one of the most informed teams right now in Sporting. Okay, Amorim has gone to Manchester United, but they've got a new coach in João Pereira who can implement some of the similar systems that Amorim built already for the Sporting team. And unfortunately, right now at Arsenal, we are facing a transition problem, especially at the heart of our midfield. And when you have the likes of Victor Gyökeres running through on goal with our defense right now, it's not looking good. But I believe in Arsenal. I believe in Odegaard. I believe in Mourinho finally coming into full fitness and form. And I feel that this will be the game that Arsenal finally turn up away from home in the Champions League. And I feel that Arsenal win this game 1-0. Look, when it comes to Arsenal right now, we haven't been gelling. We haven't been getting the luck of the green. And quite frankly, we haven't been so good in the Premier League so far. But I think after this international break, we're finally there. We're going to win 1-0.
Yeah, absolutely one to watch there. At what point does Arsenal's away form become almost self-fulfilling, right? Where they get a kind of mentality around their results there?
It's tough because we played Sporting 2 years ago in the Europa League and we should have won. We should have completely dominated that game, but unfortunately we couldn't get the win and we got knocked out of the Europa League that season by Sporting. So it's going to be kind of like a revenge tour for Arsenal. But that self-fulfilling prophecy, I hope it doesn't affect the team just yet, because hopefully if we qualify to the later rounds when we're facing a Barcelona, Real Madrid, actually I don't know about Real Madrid, but facing a Barcelona, facing who's good right now, just facing like
Inter.
Yeah,
I think Inter
facing
could
Inter
be, especially the way they played against Arsenal. They can set up. I think they'll be a really difficult team to
absolutely, and a Juventus too under Thiago Motta. Those are the games I really want Arsenal to perform in. I think Sporting, Arsenal finally have it in them. I think so.
Okay, all right, we will see. And we'll come back to this in episode 6. Right, finally then, as far as our 8 match previews go, Dean, you're going to take us through Monaco against Benfica, starting now.
Yeah, it feels like one for the hipsters, this one on match day 5, Monaco versus Benfica. But Monaco have been one of the best teams to watch in the Champions League so far. They've picked up 10 points from an available 12, but they also rank in the top 8 for things like shots on target, big chances created, and final third passes completed. But perhaps even more impressively at the opposite end, they've been very good at shutting out some very strong opponents as well. Only PSG have conceded fewer shots on goal than their 22 so far. For Benfica, it's been a little bit more unpredictable. They've won 2, they've lost 2, they've adopted more of a low block, and they've won possession in their own third 100 times in the first 4 games and won the third highest amount of tackles so far in the Champions League. So it may be a case of Monaco looking to break down a Benfica side that look to hit them on the counter-attack. But with Real Madrid managing 2 assists in his last 2 Champions League games, I think he'll be the difference here. Get a goal or an assist, and Monaco will win 2-1.
Okay, there we go. Monaco, one of several teams, probably Sporting included, certainly Brest included, that we wouldn't have expected to be sitting in this top 8 position at the halfway stage. What have you made of the Champions League so far? Obviously, we talked about the format, but some standout moments, surprise packages for you?
Yeah, I was going to say Brest. I think Brest so far have been really, really strong defensively. They're taking their chances, and I think, okay, maybe they may not finish in the top 8, but for a team that are playing in probably their first ever Champions League tournament, coming into this, and if someone told them, hey, you're going to finish in the playoffs, they would have bit your hand off. So I think Brest, I'm really, really looking into their games, and I'm like, okay, I really want them to do well, because I just love these types of stories, and I think the Champions League so far this season is giving us something like this.
Yeah, I think it's actually Brest's first ever season in any European competition, which is incredible. Like their fans must not be able to believe what they're seeing at the moment. Yeah. There's been a few Lille as well. Like the French teams, other than PSG, have actually been excellent. Monaco as well, like I've just mentioned there. But yeah, for me, it's those stories. It's those wins like Villa beating Bayern Munich and Celtic against Leipzig. And yeah, I really, like I said, I really like the system. But I think the best thing about it is that it just gives those teams still a chance to go through. And we mentioned Sparta Prague being another one. Obviously, they've dropped off massively, but it only takes that one win in the next couple of games and they're back in with a chance of progressing. So for me, it's been the most exciting sort of early stage of the Champions League for years, to be honest.
Definitely. You can't really take your eyes off it. One thing I would like to point out, though, if we were to go back to our underdog shouts from episode 1, Celtic sitting pretty in 15th at the moment. Sturm Graz not so healthy. 4 losses from 4, and Girona 29th from Rimedi, 1 win out of 4.
I think we're higher than Sturm Graz, though.
Yeah, but that's not hard.
Right, that is just about all we have time for episode 5 of the Squawka Predictor podcast. But before we go, let's just rattle through our 8 predictions for match day 5, starting with City Feyenoord.
I go for 2-1 City.
Bayern PSG.
2-0 to Bayern.
Inter Leipzig.
1-0 Inter.
Villa Juve.
1-1.
Liverpool Madrid.
3-1 Liverpool.
Sparta Prague Atletico.
Atletico to win 1-0.
Sporting Arsenal.
10-0. No, I'm joking. 1-0 Arsenal.
And Monaco versus Benfica.
2-1 to Monaco.
Right, there we go. They are our predictions ahead of match day 5. We'll be back with another episode ahead of match day 6 to see how those predictions stack up against reality and to make a few more picks of our own. But in the meantime, thank you very much, lads, for joining us once again on the Squawka Predictor podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube to be the very first to receive our next episode. In the meantime, it's goodbye from me, the football expert and the Oracle. We'll see you next time.